Sometimes, Nick, you order a pizza and you know what gets delivered? A bowl of pasta.
I hate those days. I hate
Yeah.
pasta. I'm not Italian.
Well, I disagree. Now, what happens is you're disappointed by the lack of pizza, but a good bowl of pasta goes a long way. And that's how I felt watching this movie because we're reviewing April Fool's Day from 1986, the horror slasher. Yeah.
Rewind that.
Well,
Rewind that.
both IMDb and Google claims this to be a horror mystery. Now let's unpack that for a second. First, let me go into how I found this movie because we're on a bit of a slasher kick, being the slasher aficionados that we are.
You still haven't seen Prowler yet.
It's on the list. Okay,
yeah, next week.
On this path towards watching all the slashers, we started with The Burning, which is more funny than scary, but that's for last week's episode. If you're interested in The Burning, go back and watch that episode. The Prowler's on the list, but we also wanted to find maybe some hidden gems, some things that we don't know of, or just more blind spots, which even aficionados and experts have blind spots sometimes. So where to go? Well, Vik and Nick Arcana. Full of blind spots, apparently. Okay, here's the thing. When you want to find good horror movies, what do? You can go on Shudder, you can go on Amazon, you can just do a basic browsing thing, but you want to go to the source of horror fans themselves. You want to find a list of horror movies, and I knew just the place to find this list. It was going to be the horror Reddit, sometimes labeled Dreadit. You may be familiar with that. That's where the killers from Scream 5 met each other and planned the killings for everybody in Scream 5. That wasn't my motivation, though. I wasn't there to get any kind of information about killings. I was there to find what horror movies the fans recommend.
So I will say the only interest I have in Reddit is some video game topics and Am I the Asshole posts.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
And r/no sleep.
I go to different horror things. I go to the Halloween movies Reddit, the Friday 13th Reddit. I go to the Scream Reddit. And then I go to the actual horror Reddit. Now, on the horror Reddit, of course, you have a search bar where you can search topics. So I searched favorite 80s slashers, hoping to be given a basket of goods, a basket of movies that I can draw from for us to review. I looked about 4 different threads, all with about 50 comments, and I made a list there. And one movie that showed up commonly on the favorite 80s slashers list was April Fool's Day. Now, I had heard this movie, and I thought maybe at first, maybe I had possibly seen it. But then when I went to the IMDb, I read the plot summary and realized I don't think I've seen this. Another blind spot. One of the very few rare like Bigfoot blind spots on the Vik horror catalog there.
Have you seen Maniac?
No.
That's also 1980.
This podcast is not called Expose Vik every week for his lack of horror knowledge, all right? You, my friend, are not helping our cause. Now, let's just say this.
Makes you feel better. I haven't watched it either.
Okay, well, good. We're on the same boat then. Hopefully this boat is not headed towards a empty, empty little raft thing where what's-his-face is hiding. Or I guess an empty boat where what's-his-face is hiding to kill us. Cropsy. Hopefully he's not.
And it was a canoe.
It was a canoe. It was a missing canoe.
Yes.
And a poorly edited 3-minute massacre sequence. But that's all not to say. Point being, April Fool's Day, I did read one comment, unfortunately, because I was trying to get the recommendations without any kind of spoilers. And unfortunately, one comment right next to the April Fool's Day recommendation said that was a great twist ending. Now, I was like, ooh, okay. I can't read anything about this movie. If I read anything else about it, I might find out inadvertently, may give myself the spoiler reading it and ruin the whole experience. So from there, I was like, okay, I'm not going to watch a trailer. I'm not going to do any more research. Just going to go watch the movie blind as I can. April Fool's Day is that bowl of pasta when you want a pizza. Nick,
it's more of a spinach dip. Okay.
Oh, I like spinach dip, so I'm fine with that.
I don't.
Oh, well, okay. Well, Well, we'll get into it because I think before I could communicate to you, because we watched the movie separately, of course, form our own opinion. So
Mm.
before I communicate to you that, hey, buddy, I don't know if this is quite the horror slash we're expecting. You were already deep into it with those
Yeah.
expectations. So you had a very unique experience of expecting certain things because, horror is a very specific taste.
Oh yeah.
You're a horror fan, you go into a slasher, you want stalking scenes, you want a certain amount of gore, you want all the horror tropes. I was about a half an hour in and I was like, man, this is really slow for a slasher movie. And I think you were having a common experience on your end also.
So fun gag. Since we're gonna go ahead and let people know that we're gonna talk about this ending, I did watch. I will bring up that I brought up to you inadvertently get spoiling the ending for you, but luckily neither of us put two together because we still hadn't watched this damn movie yet. That I did watch a movie called April Fool's Day that came out in 2008, and the ending to that one was all the characters were not actually killed. It was all an April Fool's Day prank. And me and you both said that's going to be the dumbest shit if that's actually the ending.
Now, sometimes, I mean, listen, one of the things about texting is sometimes with text, there's like, you miss certain things or like it's not really communicated in a way where you kind of get the full picture. I remember you saying that and I kind of brushed over and moved on, but I don't know if you realized that was a remake of this movie. That was one of the 2000 horror remakes. So you saw the remake.
Right. And I was honestly, as I'm watching it and I sent that to you, I was like, I hope this is not actually gonna go that route. I hope that was not a remake and that was just some stupid 2008 movie called April, because there's actually another one called April Fools. To
Oh,
think
there's a
that one was
couple.
like, yeah. So I was hoping it was just, in that same vein of, well, they couldn't figure out a good title for it, so there you go.
Yeah, if you search April Fool's Day on IMDb, there is a surplus of movies called April Fool's Day. I know it's like a famous saying, but I had to specifically type in 1986 just to find this entry. Um, I don't know if this has more titles or The Neighbor has more titles, but they're kind of two peas in a pod there. Yeah, you watched the remake. I guess just we were thinking, probably not thinking like, oh, that's based on an original thing.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll go ahead and give the twist, basically, as you just said. The idea here is that this is all a big April Fool's prank. Not even the prank, though. It ends up being kind of like a weird trial run she's doing for a future hotel thing she wants to do, like a
Murder
hotel murder
mystery.
mystery business type of thing. Like you go away for a weekend with the idea of there's going to be like a murder mystery. There's like there's dinner theaters, even like in DC, where it's like they serve you dinner, but then there's like a murder mystery going on stage. So you watch the mystery, by then the dinner you're supposed to figure it out. So it's be like that, but
So
like a whole weekend. So
I will say, a murder mystery is one story. That's literally, one person's killed. So now you got to figure out who the killer is. In this case, it's a murder mystery semi slasher in a sense, because most murder mysteries, not not a lot of people die in those. It's just like the one person, and then you got to figure out who the murderer is. In this one, you have people disappearing left and right.
it depends. If you think about it, this is very just basically this is essentially Friday 13th, the original, or Scream, where killings are happening, but until the end, you don't know who the killer is. Friday 13th, we were given no clues. We find out it's Jason's mom. But it's the same idea. It was like some unknown thing is killing people. Scream, the same idea. So there's slasher movies that are set up with the same setup where it's like you don't know who the killer is, and that you could say is like a slasher murder mystery. So this is kind of playing on that. Um, yeah. So given that, we're going to review this movie with the idea of knowing the twist because it's probably more interesting to look at the movie through that lens. I think about Cry Wolf. Now we reviewed that in the archives back in the day, and I feel like Cry Wolf probably took a lot from this movie inspiration. Very similar about a big prank basically, or pranks gone wrong. I don't know if you ever seen the Michael Douglas movie called The Game.
Nope.
It's a good one. It's not horror, but it's kind of like there's a big twist there, but it's kind of playing on the same idea also. Probably just gave the twist away with it, so maybe don't watch it. But it's a good movie. But But anyways, let's take it back at the beginning. So the movie is produced by Frank Mancuso Jr. Now, that name may only be familiar to Friday the 13th fans. Frank Mancuso was the producer, somewhat brainchild. I wouldn't say brainchild, but he had a big hand in the entire Friday the 13th run for all the Paramount movies. He was the main producer on all those movies. So, and this is a Paramount movie, so it makes sense. He was a huge producer for Paramount. This is 1986, and this also explains the casting of Amy Steele, who one of the most beloved main characters from Friday the 13th is Ginny from Part 2. So she's back here in another role, and I was kind of fun to see her just because I haven't seen her in anything else. Like I didn't know what she did after Friday the 13th, but here she is. So
Yeah, I kind of wish she just played Jenny.
well,
Let's face it, her character in Friday the 13th Part 2 is more, I want to say, just feels a little more
sassy.
Yeah.
Sassy and sarcastic. She has moments of Ginny here. Like when she's talking to her boyfriend, she has moments where she is being very sarcastic. So the actress has like a natural knack for like that kind of like attitude, like sarcastic, kind of smart aleck know-it-all. So there's a little bit of that. But I don't think she wanted to go full-blown Ginny. She had to still be like, okay, this is a different character.
No, this should have been Ginny for one reason. You could have said it's in the same universe of Friday the 13th, and Ginny's alive. She's out of the mental asylum, and now she's in the shit. In which case, let's face it, someone really would have died if this was Ginny.
You think Ginny is gonna like go back to a remote getaway weekend setup with a cast of teens again? You think Ginny's gonna put herself in that situation again after Friday the 13th Part 2? I don't think so, buddy.
How long is this in between? Like 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. She has time to get over it.
No, she would have.
She's just not going to the woods. She's going to an island. The worst that's going to happen there is she's going to get sunburned.
She'd have so much PTSD that she would be there. Any inkling of anything, she'd be the most paranoid person there. And by the way, she's off somewhere trying to find Paul still. So I mean, the where's Paul search is probably still going on right now. She's like, "Where's Paul? Well, Paul, where are you?"
No, I know what happened. So Jenny, and worried about Jason coming to find her, changed her name to Kit. Met a bunch of friends in college, and is now there to, be supportive for her friend, who apparently is extremely well off. Actually, all these characters are extremely well off.
Well, when we meet them, we have basically our cast of ragtag friends who apparently are in college together, and they're going off for a spring break weekend to the house of their friend Muffy.
Who names their daughter Muffy?
I assume that was a nickname. You think that's her real name? I assume it's a nickname, but I don't know.
I mean, didn't her mom, before her mom disappeared, call her Muffy as we're watching Muffy set things up?
Yeah, parents have nicknames all the time for the kids. I need to see the birth certificate for me to believe her actual legal name is Muffy.
Something tells me it's Muffy.
If it says Muffy on the birth certificate, I agree. I don't know what.
I guarantee you, it's probably her whole name is Muffy Claudia Jenkins. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, either way, she's very well off because she has a very nice house. But first, before we get to the house, we have to talk about our characters we meet on this dock that's going to take them. Basically, what's the word? The transport that they take. Basically, it's a
ferry.
Ferry. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. So we have Nan, who seems to me to be too introverted to actually want to come on this trip. She'd rather read a book, I'm guessing. So
yeah, introverted, very into her studies, probably not well off. She's the only one that feels like she comes from a small town in a sense. And you want to kind of give away because each character for the most part kind of gets their own little joke that actually plays into what's happened in the past that they may or may not regret.
Now, I think with her, so do you think the joke was basically playing on something from their past, or was it just something in general that happened to, like, her thing I thought might have just been like a coincidence because
So
How would anybody know about that?
she told her. She told Muffy. I mean, it sounds like that they were still pretty close friends. The way people are talking about Muffy, it sounds like Muffy's pretty easy to talk to. Very nice girl. So it's like, okay, she can give me advice on something I did something stupid.
So the idea is all these characters have confessed their secrets to Muffy, and now she, being the good friend she is going to use those secrets against them in a very public way, sort of. So, okay.
But yeah,
Now,
for Nan, it was a crying baby. So, and she gets very freaked out by it. So it tells us that, yes, she must have had a baby. She probably either had a miscarriage or abortion.
well, they pretty much confirm it, because another character later on says abortion, pretty much. They kind of
Oh,
confirm.
they did. Okay.
So at the beginning of the movie, one thing I'm just confused about is like, it's hard for me to establish like what all their relationships are with Muffy, and also what the relationship is with each other. Like, are they actually a group of friends, or do they only know each other through Muffy? Because Nan, it sounds like she's meeting everybody for the first time.
Yep.
So she's clearly not a part of the group. But some of the rest of them, I feel like, are actually like friends. But they all have different personalities. It's kind of the thing with Friday the 13th movies too, where it's like sometimes they start the movie with a group of friends who are just like, why are these people hanging out with each other? Like, how is this a friendship group? Like, that's all extremely different personalities.
I can give an example. Me and you have two completely different personalities.
True.
I mean, and then there's
But would that expand to an entire group of people with different personalities?
It keeps things interesting.
I think most of these people do get along for the most part, but I still don't understand the connection they all have individually with Muffy. At least it's never really well defined. Now, one hint though that I like, though, this is pretty smart. So with Nan, her connection to Muffy, I don't know if you picked up on this, was she said she met her in drama class.
Mm-hmm.
And Muffy's gonna be do quite a bit of acting this weekend, so that drama class really actually helps out here. So,
do you really call that acting? I call it. I don't know how to act like crazy, insane person, so I'm just gonna be like the whole movie.
Are you kidding me? I thought she, before I knew the twist, before I just actually bought the idea that there was a twin there, I was like, oh, this is amazing, because on the first day she had this personality, and on day 2, it seemed like Buffy had taken over. Like, it was like, oh, Buffy must have killed her on day 1, and now the second day, because it was a totally different, comatose, different acting personality.
Exactly, comatose.
I thought the actress who played Muffy did a fantastic job in this movie.
What was her name? Deborah Foreman.
Knowing that she is an actress playing somebody who's having to put on 2 different personalities, I'm telling you, if you go back and watch, day 1 Muffy is totally different from day 2 Muffy. And you can buy the idea that Buffy had killed Muffy on the end of day 1, and then it's just Buffy acting like Muffy on day 2. That's a lot of layers going on there. So
there is no Buffy acting like Muffy. Muffy had an extremely happy external personality, whereas Muffy seems like me on a good day.
But think about how crazy the layers are. It's Muffy acting like Buffy, acting like Muffy. Think about it. It's an actress playing Muffy who's trying to portray a character called Buffy, and the Buffy character is trying to act like Muffy to fool them into thinking it's still Muffy. It is actually pretty complex to think about it. I got to give the actress credit.
Yeah, but I wasn't too, because Buffy annoyed the shit out of me this whole damn movie. Even knowing it's a mystery and re-looking back at it, it's like, no, this character needs some form of personality, whether it's murderous intent or not. Even during the chase scene, she gives no real emotion.
No, you got to go back and watch it, because like there's a point where she tries to stab through the door. This is on the IMDb, so I went back and watched it too. She stabs the door when she's chasing the one dude, and she actually kind of smiles and laughs. But it's kind of a giveaway, because it's like, oh, she's smiling in a way of like, oh, she knows she's playing a prank here. So remember, this personality you're talking about, it's an act. It's a normal person, Muffy, playing the idea of deranged. She's not actually deranged. She's playing the idea of psychotic Buffy.
Well, yeah, but if you still want people to actually believe you, you act deranged. You don't act like you're trying not to die.
I thought I thought she acted exactly how you would like picture like somebody who's like psychotic and disturbed. The way she's talking slow, her eyes drooping. Man, I gotta say, man, I think if you look at like other psychos and other horror movies, she like mimics that exactly how you would
Freddy
expect. Oh, like,
Krueger.
oh, she's psychotic. So, I mean, you got to go right to Freddy. That's the one. uh, the other actor that I know for this movie is Tom Wilson, who plays what's his face in this movie? Art, not Art. Let's see. His name is
Arch.
Arch. Arch
Oh,
is
the steroid guy.
he's Biff. I don't know how familiar you are with the Back to the Future movies, but he's Biff from Back to the Future. Amazing.
Okay, makes some sense. But he kind of gets a little bit of characterization with his little prank was there's steroids in his medicine cabinets.
Yeah, I can buy that. I can buy it on steroids. All right, let's go back to the actual the ferry ride though, because a lot of things happen on this ferry ride that I want to talk about very quickly. Also we should mention that we meet Skip, who is supposedly Muffy's cousin. We'll find out later, actually, the twin brother.
Yes.
Now, do you remember the little knife prank on the ferry?
Oh yeah, they were arguing because Arch kept failing the whole trying to grab the knife without falling bit. Right. So he chucked it. Be fair, he didn't chuck this damn knife. It was just like he tossed the knife very gently to him, and it's just all of a sudden in his gut. I'm like, that's a prank. That is a prank, but
I thought Skip sold it well though. He backed up and fell into the water. I was like, this guy's really selling it.
I'll give him that. It was pretty interesting. Done. But then I'm just sitting there, and of course, still thinking slasher, and there's going to be some accident happening. Completely forgetting it's called April Fool's Day. I'm sitting there like, would that knife actually go into him with that light of a toss?
Well, I thought this guy was going to be a nod to the dude from Friday the 13th Part 2, the prankster character, and then even also Shelly in Part 3. There's always like a jokester character who cries wolf and then ends up getting killed for real. Okay, now the ferry setup in terms of, because this happens, now the other guy, the helper guy, I guess, what is the ferry assistant, the ferry backhand? What would he be?
This guy's name? Buck.
Oh, no, it's Buck.
Yeah.
Right. So Buck goes in the water, and then the main ship guy's like, hey, come on and do this thing. He's like, no, I got it. I'll do it here from the water.
Yeah, this is probably where I should have realized I am not watching a slasher movie at this point, because usually in slasher movies, characters, the accident is usually a little bit more played out well. Whereas this time, it's like the guy is not getting out of the water. The boat is coming closer to him. Get out of the water.
I thought that basically, so it was like, it seemed like I'd understand it because I was like, there's two professional ship people that have been hired to do this, or this is their job, right? So for this to happen, I was like, this is very like unprofessional and weird. Like, no big crazy thing happened. He just got in the water and then something comes and hits him. And I'm like, this is really dumb for this to happen to these characters. And then also I'm like, I don't even know who to blame, because I don't think the kids are to blame, because the dude was like, hey, I'll do it from here. So he obviously thought he could do it.
Well, to be fair, when he first said it, I thought it was he was going to swim to the dock, get on the dock, and then do it. And I'm just like, why is he still in the water? This scene definitely should have set up. It definitely sets up that you're not watching a slasher, because, yeah, slasher characters are dumb, but the actual accident portion is usually played out better.
I don't know, man. I thought when he first popped up out of that water with his face all mangled and stuff, and then they take him away, I literally, because I've seen, not say like the burning is such a simple motivation as this, but I was like, oh, is the story here that he's just going to come back and kill them for revenge? I thought it was going to be that simple. Like, they take him away and now he's going to come back and kill them overnight. I thought it was like, oh, this is going to be super simple, cheesy 80s slasher. I was still on that board of it being a slasher from this. But I will say, watching this scene with knowing the twist, now it actually plays out kind of brilliantly. You're like, wait a minute, okay. this did seem so unprofessional and stupid because, of course, they're all in on it. And then you're like, okay, also, as part of her game, she wants the guy to be a suspect, right? So it's done in a way where the dude Skip is like, oh, I'm to blame. This is my fault. So the kids feel some kind of blame for it. So when things start going down, they're actually like, oh, they're immediately like, oh, this dude's coming back to get revenge on us. So it's actually as part of the game, it's a brilliant setup, actually.
I will say, I would have thought more the ferryman would have been the killer over Buck, because Buck also had a very gaping wound on his shoulder too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, that's going to limit his ability of using his arm. So it's not going to be that effective of a killer.
I would have thought them together because I guess my idea would be like, he probably needs the other guy to bring him back on the ferry. There's no, how do we know Buck
They left the
himself
ferry.
Or come back on a different thing though? Then maybe
it's like, because they left the ferry there. The constable took him away.
So maybe come back in a different way with a different boat or something, because like I would think you need both of them. So it was like, as a very generic slasher setup, you could just be like, okay, this movie could be as simple and dumb as this dude is going to come back now for revenge, and then he's going to stalk him over the weekend. I was like, okay, now going into like the taking out and be like, okay, now this is Muffy playing this whole story out. Pretty good for her to be like, hey, I can set this way to make like a clear suspect here, and they're gonna be like, oh my god, I think it's him. It all played out perfectly, honestly. So that scene makes way more sense knowing the twist. Without the twist, I'm like, how do these boat people who are like professionals and they're skilled boat workers, how do they let this accident happen? It made no sense for that to happen. So
I will say, they're just lucky. None of our main characters are smart enough to put two and two together, because honestly, these characters should not, being college, should not have felt any kind of regret, because at the same time, you would have heard them on the boat like, hey, get out of the water. Oh no, I can do this myself. Honestly, at that point, okay, dude, you get what you deserve.
But again, what's smart about it? So when they first get on the land, the main ship guy, he's treating them like they're responsible. He's like, you guys wait here. If I come back and anything's happened to him, I know where to find you. So he's being mad at them and acting like they're responsible. So that's like that dude playing the role of like putting the fear in them, being like making them think, oh, like they're mad at us. If you look back, it's very subtle. He's like, when I get back, you better be here. Don't go anywhere. So it's like, so it's all played into like the thing of like, okay, making them scared, make them think we're coming back for revenge. If the dude hadn't done that, it would be like, oh, why do you guys feel? Because even the dude skipped the first couple of scenes. He's like, someone keeps telling him like, hey, it's not your fault. Buck's thing is not your fault. But he's like actually really taking like responsibility for it in his brain. He's like, it's my fault. All right. So anyways, we get to the house, which looks like a typical haunted rich person's mansion with all the trimmings.
Yep. Minus the ghost. I looked. There was no ghost.
If there's no ghost here, it might be Abigail. Because this is right in the mold of one of those houses.
Well, I didn't see any random ballerina vampires either.
And I think I'm happy about that. I think one Abigail per every couple years is good for me.
Or just one Abigail in general.
I gotta just mention, this reminds me, there's like 3 different R.L. Stine books I read as teens that this movie feels like. Where there's like a weekend getaway and a mystery killer. This was like all the Fear Street books and the R.L. Stine books of back in the day. Christopher Pike also. Okay, so we get about, I would say, 15-20 minutes of just sort of getting to know the characters. Once I eliminated the idea of slasher, I tried to sit down and focus on the characters, and I did get more personality, really listening to what everybody said, their dialogue and stuff. You do get a feel for all the characters when you kind of like really sit down and focus on what they're saying versus like thinking like slasher.
You literally get a guy talking to a girl about, yeah, my book project is this porn magazine.
Hey, it's a typical slasher type of character, but you know what? That dude, what's his name? Not Slash. That is Chaz.
Yeah.
Chaz. even Chaz, who at those first couple scenes, you think, oh, he's gonna be like the jerk or something like that. By the end, he seems like a likable dude, like anybody else there. He's just like, he's not really a jerk at all. So,
Well, he was kind of
um,
forced to stop being a jerk when they believe stuff is going down. At the same time, like in that first night, he slept with Nikki. So now there's that connection we get. So when Nikki finds those 3 bodies, now he feels like, okay, I need to stop being a jerk and be serious. Otherwise something bad is going to happen with her.
he's actually like showing a lot of concern for her too. Actually, surprisingly,
She's
Nikki,
the
I
only one that
thought
slept with him.
no, but I think Chaz was framed as like the guy who actually all the girls like though. So I'm not thinking about you might be thinking about the other guy, the guy Hal, who's like I guess framed more as like
Harvey. I think it's
Harvey, but he calls himself Hal too. But he's the one more that like I guess can't get any female attention there. But Chaz is like I guess built up as like more of the ladies' man. Nikki, I thought Nikki reminded me at first what role I thought she was going to play in this movie. I thought she was going to be the Melissa from Friday the 13th Part 7. I thought she was going to be like the
kind of bitchy character.
Yeah, but with like evil whatever, and then like I gotta say like that she becomes more and more likable as the movie goes on because really actually a lot of stuff she says is actually really funny. She actually has like she's very sarcastic and very fun actually. But with the right frame, you could be like, okay, well, she starts out pretty bitchy, but I would say she grows me as the movie goes for sure. Rob is our character who he's the only one that knows what he wants to do with his life. He wants to go to medical school after college.
But remember, he doesn't take things too seriously.
All right, I got a big problem with this. Somewhere there exists a counselor who told him, hey, your grades are fine, but this is a no-go, buddy, because this is for serious people. What kind of evil, horrible like what? I don't understand. And Rob's like actually taking that advice seriously. He's like, yeah, man, I want to do medical school, but I can't do it because I'm not serious enough. Like, what?
It's even funnier that everyone's telling him, I'm like, dude, you're smart. Go do it. You don't need to take life seriously all the time, especially since you're still young. You still want to live.
The whole movie, he's hanging his hat. He's like depressed because what his counselor said to him. And I'm like, I thought he was going to be like, the truth is my grades aren't good enough. It's like, oh, bam. Okay. No medical school. You're screwed. You can't do it. He's like, my grades are fine. I'm on the path. This counselor doesn't think I can do it because I'm not serious enough. It's like, that's nothing to cry about. You should prove him wrong. Like who cares what one random counselor idiot says?
Yeah. So I'm listening to that damn counselor and get that. Better yet, go to the school dean and be like, sir, I went to the counselor, told her what I wanted to do. Counselor told me to die, pretty much, to not go pursue my dreams. And that dean would be like, okay, well, we need to get a new counselor because the counselor shouldn't say that.
Yeah. People should be teachers, counselors. They should be encouraging you to pursue your goals, pursue your dreams, not being like, looks like you got the grades, but I don't think you can do it. That dude should be fired immediately, whoever that counselor is. But either way. Okay, so then we have, let's see, who have we not talked about? So Skip basically is the cousin / stepbrother who is
twin brother
prankster, but also is just very guilty now because he thinks that what happened to Buck was his fault.
Right. Harvey's
a fun character. He's actually pretty fun too because like he is like apparently like from a farm or something. He's kind of like I guess
definitely. But another thing about him is he's one of those fast talkers. There, I guarantee you, he's because if you listen to some of the stuff he says, it is almost ridiculous. It is pretty ridiculous.
But he's trying to impress Nikki the whole time. So that's
yeah. But again, that's the whole fast talking part. It's like maybe if I'm such a fast talker, you can't hear what I'm trying to tell you. So you can't call me on this bullshit.
He has kind of an accent too. It's very like but you kind of like I don't know, you kind of by the end you're kind of cheering for him to actually win Nikki over. It doesn't really happen, but you're kind of like, man, give this guy a break.
Well, I think he definitely lost his chance with Nikki when he let the bucket fall down the well. And I'm like, For someone who claims that he's pretty good at this, because I'm pretty sure he said that at one point, it's like, to check the bucket, make sure it's tied to the rope. And also the fact that back in the 80s, this is definitely a chivalry kind of thing should be going on. The fact that he's too scared to go down there.
No, but she kind of like, okay, I don't think it was smart for anybody to go down the well. And to the point, she ends up falling into the water, and then credit to him, he does come and get her out the well at least. But yeah, but she kind of forcefully was like, "No, I'm gonna do it. I'm a woman. I can do it." And he's just like, "Okay, well, all right. Well, there's probably dead bodies down there, so go do your thing."
Well, I mean,
He was right.
to be fair, at the same time, it'd be like, I do agree with him, because I think he did say like those prongs or those wrongs that are in there look pretty weak,
Unstable, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah,
And remember, she dropped her flashlight too in there too, so there's no light. She's going down there just darkness, pretty much.
Yeah, the only downside is, granted, that is at least until at the moment, that's our only water source, is that well, which I do have an issue with. That's supposed to be our only water source. How is Nikki constantly being shot in the face with water coming from this sink?
Well, that's another clue that this is not what it seems. Now let's go back for a second though. So when Skip is the first one who
disappears,
wanders off by himself and ends up dying, right? Again, one thing the movie does right with the twist is that if everybody was in on it before they got to the island or the place, you couldn't show them by themselves because there'd be no reason for them to be acting scared or weird if they were in on it and then by themselves. So by being like, okay, they don't know about it until we basically we're saying that every death scene is pretty much just either Muffy or the deck or the dock guy, the ferry guy, coming to them and basically explaining what's going on and getting them on board for the rest of the movie. So you can still show them by themselves scared because they don't know yet. It would be weird if like they were in on it and then we had to go back and be like, wait, he was in on it. Why is he like walking by himself scared? He knows what's going on. So at least they cover themselves with that.
Well, there's that, but I will say the ferryman probably got punched in the face with this stunt that he pulled on Skip, because he grabs Skip by the throat and forcefully pulls him to him. So,
okay, but
I don't know about you, but I'll be turning around swinging.
Now wait a minute though. One thing I would say too is like, who was it in the woods though? Because who was the person doing this? Because don't they call the ferry guy? He's actually at the hospital.
No, they call the constable.
Okay, and the constable is the one saying, "Hey, I'm here at the hospital with him."
Yeah,
so the ferry dude is still over on the island with them.
Allegedly, remember the constable was also part of it, so it's possible the ferryman was there.
Okay, because I'm saying they make a point to show the dude at the hospital.
Show the constable. I don't remember them showing the ferryman.
No, I know that. So I'm saying basically, so ferryman's only man. He's the only person that it can be then back on the island. Because they're showing a man walking up to these people. I don't think it's Muffy, like the one in the woods and stuff like that. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just wearing like man's boots, like Mrs. Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 1. But
no, I think it's the ferryman.
So the ferryman basically walks on this person, whoever it is, Skip, and then Arch, and basically is going to be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. So go jump in the well and play dead."
Well, remember, Arch and Skip weren't in the well. They just had their dead. They just had like a prosthetic dead heads, because their heads were allegedly decapitated.
So more so, hey, there's a Denny's down the road. Go have a breakfast, have a triple stacker, and come back tomorrow or something like that. Whatever it may be. We talked about this, but we were like, okay, you approach Skip and you're like, hey, this is going on. Skip's like, yeah, let's do it. You walk up to Arch hanging upside down. He's probably annoyed. You let him down. He's like, what about that snake? He's like, that snake was just there. And then Arch is like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, also remember, Arch apparently shit his pants.
He's like, look, I can help you, but you got to throw these in the dryer because
I don't. And that's how you know it was the ferryman who was there, because they even mentioned to Arch at the ending. He's like, yeah, because Muffy's like, yeah, the snake was pure coincidence. That was not part of the plan.
Right.
And then the ferryman and the Archer's like, I wasn't scared. And the ferryman's like, yeah, your pants would beg to differ.
It's like funny, like in the middle of the whole mystery, they're like, "Hey, I know Arch is dead, but why are his pants like in the laundry, like getting washed?" It's like, okay, but anyways, Arch is like, "Yeah, let's do it." Now, the one character like I don't think she's gonna go along with this is Nan.
Man,
So Nan, so what happened with Nan? I'm guessing is that so you remember the scene where Nan confronts
Muffy.
Muffy over the whole baby thing. She's
Yes.
like, "How could you do that?" Basically, blah, and then we kind of cut away in the middle of the scene. I'm guessing that's when, at that exact moment, we cut away. Muffy explains everything that's going on to her, convinces her to go along with it. But I feel like Nan's probably like thinking like, you guys can do this without me. I'm not. Her personality seems like she'd be more like, "Nah, I'm not going to participate in this." That seems like a hard sell to get her on board. But
Yeah, and also I still don't think it was Muffy unless because in the very next scene we see Nan sitting down at a bench still crying about it. So unless she's still hurt about the whole baby bit, I
I, I
don't
think
I
I
don't
think
think
it made her.
Muffy.
I think it made her think about the abortion thing. She's crying about that probably.
Mhm.
Because she doesn't we don't see anybody approach her, she just disappears and then ends up in the well, right? So
Yeah,
she yeah,
because
so
I remember that being a weird bit for me because like I remember seeing that third body. I was like, who the fuck? Then they even and then Rob was talking to Constable saying, yeah, we have 3 dead bodies here. I'm like, and then they said Nan, and at first I didn't give two craps about their names. I was like, who the hell is Nan?
that's why it makes the most sense for in that scene, Muffy probably told her what's going on and then got her to be like, "Okay, you have to go disappear for a while and come back." I think only Muffy would have been able to convince her also. I don't think the ferryman approaching her with a fake kill was gonna, like, get her on board. That works with maybe Skip and Arch, but that was not gonna work with her. You'd have to have Muffy emotionally pleading like, "Hey, I need this to try out my business thing. Help me out with this." Um, One thing I thought was cool was that when they first see Skip's body underneath the thing,
Mm,
and they come back and they're like, "Where's Skip? Has anybody seen him?" Everybody immediately, because in most movies, I've seen it happen many times, a dumb thing where the first character goes missing, right? And the other characters always come up with some dumb thing where they're like, "Oh, he was mad. He probably ran away. He'll be back." They just know stuff. They're like, "Oh, nothing's going on. He was mad last night. He'll come back." Whatever. Like, there's always some dumb reason. All these characters are me like, "Oh, something's going on. Let's call the police." Everybody's immediately on board with like, "Yeah, you're right. We haven't seen him last night." There was no questioning of it. There was no like dumb thing of like, "Nah, Skip probably went for a swim. We'll be back later." They
I
actually addressed it and like smart people actually for once.
well, I
So
will say there's 2 things about that. One, the first thing is they don't know Skip. They don't know his kind of like sense of humor, even though they played a prank on a boat, but that doesn't mean that he's
no,
going to do some kind of
no,
long
no,
con.
no. It was set up in a way where they could easily one of the characters could easily be like, "Oh, that's Skip. This is another joke. He's playing a joke on us." Nobody even brought that up, which was like, I was like, thank God, because it was such an easy setup. It was like, "Oh, he's playing a joke on us. He'll be back." But they all were like, "No, let's call the police. Let's go look for him." They all took it very seriously, which I thought was like, whew, clever and not stupid. Because it's usually would have been like just like, uh, let's go on partying and ignore it because blah blah blah. But
I
they're
will
actually alert.
say, I will say,
So
if they did just say, let's ignore it and go partying," that probably would have put a damper on Muffy's plans.
well, if we're to believe it at this point in the movie, most of the characters still don't know that this is all a ruse. They're all still basically taking it seriously. Now, one thing I don't like is that then they show Arch with Rob and with Chaz all like figuring out what to do. They find Skip's knife, like which is like cut in half or something like that, basically. So the knife's
Mhm.
messed up. So they're immediately like, "Oh man, something's actually going down." Arch is like picks up a weapon. He's like, "Let's go get him." And another guy, Chaz, is like, "Do you mean split up?" He's like, "Yeah, split up." Have you not seen it? This is 1986. Have you not seen any horror movies previous to your split up?
These are also really, in a sense, a well-off college kids who probably don't really have a sense of the world yet because they haven't been in the world because mommy and daddy usually help them.
Yeah, why is Arch so like anxious to go in the woods and try to find the killer? I don't
Steroids.
understand. He's very overconfident, but then when he sees the snake, he craps
To be
himself. So.
to be fair, he's
Well, most
also
people,
hanging upside down,
yeah,
and that snake is coming pretty close to his face. I assume that snake was actually going to get him.
yeah. In these first couple cutaway deaths, because they're cutaways, you either take the approach of like, oh, that's lame. Show me the death. What's going on here? That's super lame.
As me.
Or, well, I was too at first. I was like, what kind of slasher is this? You cut away, like, what the hell? But now I'm like, oh, okay, that's serving the story purpose because later on you're like, well, I didn't see anybody die. So, um, to my point earlier, the difference between I'm gonna just bring it up one more time. Muffy on that first day seems like an extremely friendly, fun person. The Muffy who comes in the kitchen on day 2 is now
A zombie.
a comatose zombie, and you're like, "Ooh, that's weird." Um,
I would have been like, ooh, she needs to go to bed. Like, she give that woman a Snicker. She's not herself when she's hungry.
yeah. I thought the whole house being booby trapped was kind of fun. You're right. There's a lot of like chairs breaking. People sit on them. There's the whoopee cushion. There's like the sinks that all malfunction.
Except one. Well,
Yeah.
like, technically, they all malfunction in the form of like goop coming out of them, but you got the one that malfunctions clean water into their face.
I mean, this is much better stuff than most haunted houses I've been to in terms of just shenanigans. Okay. Anyway, when stuff's going down, basically, the characters, to me, again, for a slash situation, they all act reasonably intelligent. At a certain point, they're like, "Hey, let's all stick together. We're gonna walk down to the thing by ourselves. The ferryman's gonna come pick us up, and
I
we'll
just want to
go."
bring up something. The ferryman left with the constable in the constable's boat, right?
Yeah.
So the ferry should still be on the dock.
Uh-huh.
Why the fuck do you just not leave on the ferry?
So eventually, they do. At the end, basically, they get the idea, so they go down to the boat, and they're ready to escape. But then they're like, "Oh, where are the keys at?" And they're like,
That's
"Oh,
when the
they
constable
left the
comes back
keys."
with his boat. That's
Yeah.
still not the ferry that was left there that just somehow disappeared.
Oh, yeah. Well, what happened to the ferry?
No one ever addressed that.
Well, even that though, would Muffy allow them? Would they have access to actually drive the ferry? Would they have keys to it or anything? I don't know. That's other thing
If
too.
I guarantee you that ferry, as annoying as it would be, I'm going to mention, has oars. With enough people, you'd make that thing move.
You're saying they could probably get as far as Manhattan?
Not that far, but they get as far as the mainland.
Look, if Jason can swim to Manhattan and those kids can oar their ways to Manhattan, these kids can too.
That's yeah, well, that's fair.
Yeah, the one thing, like, and to go back to the well scene for a second, the one thing with the well scene too is like, in that moment, yeah, they're not acting like there's a killer on the loose. They're just like, oh yeah, like nobody go in a well when there's a killer out there. Like that's just like you should be watching your back, not like distracting yourself in that way. So okay, basically we get to the sort of the climax where they're all in the house and they're all deciding what to do, and some characters are annoyed, some characters are, I guess, Rob wants to
So
go check the attic out.
yeah, so
Nikki
you
wants
brought
to
up,
go to room. Yeah.
hey, they did a smart thing. They decided to stay together. What happens 5 minutes later? I should mention.
Well,
They all split up.
that was the plan. But then well, Nikki decides to leave the house. She's going to her bed to pack up her bags and leave. And even though Chad's like telling her like you're gonna walk there alone, what are you gonna do? What if the dude doesn't even show up? Like she's committed to leaving.
Real question is where she. I would have brought up. Where are you going?
She said
We're on an island.
She said she'll swim her way back.
And why pack a bag? Just jump. Just get down to your skivvies and start swimming.
Well, she may need her eyeliner in the water. I don't know.
What? So Ursula can give her gills when she gets down there?
Now let's talk about Chaz for a second. So he's like laying on the bed with a mask on, and then
Cupping his
let's
balls.
say Ferryman confronts him. This is one that I'm hoping Chaz knew about the plan a little bit earlier on, because to me, him laying there with a mask on and the dude just walks up and like says, "Hey, this is what's going on." I don't see him going along within that moment either. At that point, it's so far into the thing that I'm sure he would be pissed off
Well,
at that point.
the
So I feel
other
like he had to know ahead of time, but him and Nikki can't both know, because then there'd be no reason for their acting that way.
well,
But
yeah, but
I feel like one of them maybe knows, and it has to be
so
him, can't be Nikki.
I have to say it was probably him for one reason, because I do agree with you. But it's also how quick the transition was. Because what, Nikki leaves the room, packs a little bit more to grab
So
some more stuff, and
so
immediately she's out.
we can surmise Ferryman is in the closet, because when Nikki comes back, he's gonna come out the closet. So he's
Yes.
in the closet. So when she left, he came out the closet and said, "Hey, buddy, this is what's going on." Theoretically, but I'm thinking like, no, Muffy must have clued Chaz in earlier, because think about how he's acting too. He's like saying, "No, you can't go anywhere. What are you gonna do? Go by yourself." He's trying to keep her there, and then also like, it just doesn't make sense that like him with the mask on, laying on the bed, is gonna like. Those characters are so scared at that point that they're gonna be like, they're gonna have the reaction of like, "Oh, this is bullshit. Like, I'm not doing this." Borderline, dude comes to the closet, and Nikki, she's also at a point where I feel like she'd be like, "This is bullshit. I'm mad at everybody. I'm leaving. I'm not participating."
At this point, nobody would want to be part of it because it's gone on for so long.
So, but she's the only one I don't buy. I buy that Chaz is already in on it. I don't buy. Now you move to the last one is Hal or Harvey.
Harvey, yeah.
I can see them. I can see just they're using Nikki then to convince him, and he's like, "Okay, cool." The thing with him though is
for him.
thing with him that's tricky though is, remember, they show him like pull a gun out of his suitcase, so he has a gun in his pocket. So they had to be very careful how they approach him with this, because the dude can't walk up on him, because he could have shot somebody at that point. So
I know how it worked. Muffy, because remember, Hal's also a very lonely guy at this point. He's trying to sleep with Nikki, so it's either they did get Nikki on board, have Nikki talk to him, or Muffy comes in and talks to him with some very vague promise of an act that he really wants.
I don't think that the act is even the promises there need to be. I think just Muffy or Nikki being nice to him probably was. He was like, "I'll go hang myself upstairs," and the thing. So, either way, they're all convinced and in character and like hung by a rope within like 10 minutes.
Yes.
So it's a very quick process. But we'll go with it, because that's the only way the climax works. They have to be convinced very quickly. So Rob and
Kit,
I'm just gonna call her Ginny. It's just too easy to call her Ginny. Paul and Ginny. No, I was like Rob and Ginny.
are we sure this ain't the same actor who played Paul? He has the same hair.
Now that would have been good casting. That'd have been like, oh, you'd be like, this is Ginny and Paul. This is 5 years later. They moved on with their lives.
No, that was their April Fool's prank. Is they find the newspaper clippings of what happened 5 years ago with their actual names.
That would have been. This movie is made by Paramount. You could have easily tied it into the Friday.
Right.
Or I would have liked just them before they go on the ferry, have like a crazy Ralph character. Just you're doomed.
Nah.
You're all gonna die.
Remember, Crazy Ralph died in the second movie.
Yeah, but just get a character that's like him, but not exactly him, like they did in all the sequels. Okay. They figure out the mystery, Ginny and Rob, because there are some clues throughout the movie about the whole twin thing. Like you see, I think you see a drawing at a certain point that has the twins.
Mm-hmm.
They find the little, I want to say figurines, I guess.
Figurines. They find a Polaroid.
She finds a thing on the boat talking about somebody's been like in a hospital the last couple of years. And she's like, Muffy's not been in a hospital. So on the first viewing, when this twin twist happens, And I really thought this was the twist. I thought it was just that. I thought it was as simple as, oh, killer twin sister Buffy. I kind of groaned at first because I was like, oh, the killer twin thing. Where have I seen that before? I was like, sure, I've seen that before from somewhere. There's always a killer twin. I've seen that before, I'm sure.
Black
So
Christmas.
I kind of groaned, and then I was like, oh, actually, this is pretty smart though, because I started thinking about like, okay, was it Buffy the entire weekend, or at a certain point did she kill Muffy and take over? Because the whole weekend then was Buffy acting like Muffy, or was it only that on the second day was the first day actually Muffy? I was really like thinking about the movie in the lens of like, okay, the killer twins plan. So I was on board with it, and I got sucked into that pretty much, where I was like, okay, this is what's happening. It's a killer twin thing. Sucked in enough that again, when the ultimate twist comes, I actually was surprised. I was like, what? I was like, there's no way they're all in on this. And it goes back to I made a point earlier, I think maybe, or maybe before we started, but this concept of the whole, it was all a prank thing. We've seen it a bunch of times. I don't mind the concept if it's executed okay. And my barometer for if it's executed okay is just that when the reveal happens, am I actually at least a little bit surprised? I was actually a little bit surprised to know that this was all fake. I bought in the idea that there was actually a killer twin here trying to kill them. So I was like, oh, you are kind of let down, but you're also like, oh, but I am surprised though. So I have to say, I appreciate that. I was kind of still, but then you think about the title, you're like, oh, it's called April Fool's Day. They should have called it something else. They kind of give it away in the title. So
yeah, and to be fair, again, I brought up the 2008 remake.
yeah, you having seen that and not knowing it's a remake, it's like that probably put in your brain like, oh,
this is a completely different movie.
But you're like, but it's like it's almost unfair because it's like, yeah, but you watched the remake first. Like that's just not common. So,
but still, I was hoping, when the climax was happening, I was like, okay, got our killer versus our final girl, and then she opens the door, reveals everyone. I was like, fuck you. I felt cheated. Okay,
I did not.
I felt cheated because at the same time, like, I've already seen this movie. I hated the remake. Granted, I will give this movie something the remake cannot have. The remake did not have a damn reason. At least this girl had a reason.
Out of curiosity, I read a few reviews for the remake, and the remake reviews basically said, unlike the original, it does not have likable characters. You hate all the characters. Has a different ending, but most people hated the remake. So it was definitely a different reception of that. The tone of the movie and the characters never really felt like slasher to me. It always felt like mystery, thriller, and then very like light and comedic. So the ending kind of fit those characters to me better than them actually being killed off. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but if the movie was different, then I would have wanted more of like an actual slasher ending. But with those characters and that setup, it actually felt more like a mystery to me and not like it never felt like a true slasher. So I was okay with that. Now, one thing you may like or not know about is that there's a different original ending, which I think probably would have satisfied the part of the audience that would have been like you that kind of felt that way. And they filmed this ending too. It's a whole added.
Probably have it on the Blu-ray then.
No, for some reason they tried to get it for the Blu-ray, the footage, but they couldn't get it for some reason.
Oh.
So this is how it's originally scripted, and this is what they filmed. So basically, after that whole confession thing in the main living area where she reveals the whole plan about this is all like a trial run for a business I want to run so I can keep my house. That all happens, right? And then they cut to the next morning. So there's no scene afterwards where she's in her room drinking all that stuff. That's something I'm going to add on later on. You cut to the next morning, basically, we have Muffy like in her kitchen, right? And apparently the dude Skip is going to come out the closet and try and kill her. Now, Skip's motivation here is that, remember, he's the twin brother. So if you think about it, it's in the writing. It's pretty smart. The house is being left to Muffy and Skip is going to kill her because he's mad that the inheritance is all going to Muffy, even though he's actually the brother. It's like, wait, why is this house yours? It actually makes sense if you think about it now knowing that that's the brother. So he goes to try to kill her, but then Rob comes in and then is going to kill Skip in like self-defense. And then it's going to end with actually Muffy having gone psychotic based on the whole sequence. Now suddenly she's like starting to act like Buffy, but like really now she actually went psycho because of what just happened. Her brother trying to kill her. So that was like the dark and twisted ending they actually filmed and everything. And I don't know, whoever's in charge watched it, and I kind of agree. I would like to see it as a deleted scene, but I kind of agree that it feels too dark for this movie. As weird as it sounds, for this group of characters, imagine Skip jumping out the closet trying to kill Muffy seems like a different movie almost. But like the Cry Wolf thing, where there was actually a murder at the end, and maybe the remake too, this was originally made with the idea of that, oh, this time it's not actually a joke ending. This time, like somebody actually died. So they did it, and that was filmed, but they just felt like the movie works better as like a light mystery and not like the slasher ending. But it was built in. I think that would have satisfied maybe you more in terms of the ending because it would have added that extra thing at the end. So
To be fair, that still wouldn't have satisfied me unless we would have gotten more of Skip kind of giving her dirty looks, or giving us some clues that Skip was kind of already going in that route.
the line was going to be something like, when she leaves the dinner room, Skip tells the rest of them like, "Hey, I have an idea to get her back in the morning. Like I'm gonna scare her in the morning." So the idea was that like Skip is like tells him that. I don't know why he tells him that if he's like just planning to hide in the closet and kill her, but then he actually really tries to kill her, and then Rob saves the day. So when they cut that out, they were like, "Oh, we still need an ending though." So then like 5 months after filming, they went back and filmed that last scene with her in the room, that last little prank at the end. So they used that as the ending instead.
Which
Yeah, it may not have been exactly what you're looking for, but I think it would have been more in line of like what you were thinking, what you would expected from this kind of movie. It's like, oh, but there's going to be a thing now at the end where there really is a death. That's almost
so
predictable now, honestly.
so for me, that last ending after the party. Granted, at this point, I get already annoyed because this is the ending we got. There's no real consequence to this person's actions of pretty much playing with people. Because again, I feel like there should be some kind of consequence of her actually playing with people. Like one of them took it,
well,
one of them taking it extremely serious. Like say Nikki, let's say they went after Nikki and Nikki actually stabbed Ferryman dude in the eye. There would have been
well,
a consequence.
there's two things, but you have to fill in your own thing afterwards because they can't show the next day. But I'm guessing a couple things happen there. One thing is like, I'm guessing the whole idea of this was that these are my friends, so I can do things to them where they'll forgive me. But I guarantee you, the friends are not going to so easily accept an invitation for the next Muffy weekend getaway. They're going to
I
be like, I'm going to go ahead and move on with my life and go to college or go somewhere else. I think they probably in the back of their heads, they wanted to keep the harmony, but they're on the back of their heads thinking, this woman is crazy. And I don't want to be, we don't know the aftermath, but I'm guessing at that point, they're all playing along as like the friends there. But I'm sure at least some of them were kind of like, this whole thing was crazy. I'm
not
sure, especially Jenny and Rob,
about to say,
who
but the way
by the end were like basically fighting for their life. It felt like so.
yeah, so let's be fair. At the end, like granted, I would have been fine if say it showed up as a prank, but the twist would have been but the whole thing with Kit and our villain, Kit and Buffy, was Kit actually smacked Buffy upside the head and put her down. Not killed her in a sense, but maybe comatose her, gave her some brain damage. Yeah, again, there should, in my opinion, be a consequence because you're not just playing a prank, you're playing with people's lives. You're playing with the fact that if any one of them at some
Sort of.
point took it extremely serious, like to be fair, I guarantee you a lot of people in real life would have, somebody could have gotten hurt. Like when Buck jumped out at Rob at the end there. Who's to stop Rob from grabbing Buck and just pounding his
Oh,
face in?
Oh, not only that, Muffy was playing a very dangerous game because she's walking towards her friends with a psychotic look and a knife in her hand. Who's to say one of them didn't find a gun or something where they at that point it's self-defense. Like, so she was playing a very dangerous game. Look, I think we all can come away feeling like, well, Muffy is crazy and this was stupid. But at the same time, at the end, I didn't, as silly as it sounds, I didn't think it was the right movie for her to actually like get killed or something like that. It just didn't seem like the right movie. Now, I didn't know that at the very end though, when somebody pops up behind her,
That was just uncalled for, in my opinion. It's like,
I didn't know.
what's the point of this?
Did you know who that was at first? I didn't know who that was.
No,
It was Nan, but I didn't put that together.
it
I thought
was,
that was Nan playing one final joke on her. Yeah,
but
I
Nan,
thought. Yeah,
it
that was
didn't even look like her hair because her hair looked a little bit
she.
longer. Oh, then again, you
She
said 5 months.
Well, she did something with her hair to make herself look like a Jack in the Box. I'm telling you. I thought it was like I thought the reveal was gonna be was like that was actually her Buffy, like her actual sister or something. It was Nan playing one more joke, probably to get back at her for the abortion thing or something.
Which
You know?
again, in my opinion, still doesn't make sense because even Nan was still very uncomfortable, even when during that little party bit. Stand those performance. So this
This
is
the
a
one.
hard one.
This is not a hard one. The girl who plays Muffy does a fantastic job. I can't believe you're not buying her as a psychopath.
No,
It's an actress playing a character
she's
who's
playing
making you
a
think she's another character.
boring. She's playing a boring villain because she's always deadpan face. She's always talking like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like that should have clued everyone in. She's doing that fake acting speech. You know, in sitcoms and they're always when like in Fresh Prince of Bel Air, they're always trying to act like I don't know what I'm doing.
Listen,
That's exactly what I saw when I saw Buffy.
she's a college age girl who's probably taking one drama class. All right, cut her a break. She's not Meryl Streep. I mean, come on.
But she met Nan in drama class.
I think she did the best job. For me, she did the best job. I also always have to shout out. I feel like I would watch Amy Steele in pretty much anything because I feel like she's always likable.
For me, I am giving it to, in my opinion, Nan because she had the more dramatic role with the fact that she had to get an abortion and the fact that now that her friend just played a prank on her, she has to be extremely distraught over that. She's extremely hurt by the fact that this person she believes is her friend would do something like that to her.
Yeah, she did actually get to play with some dramatic scenes there. I thought Nan, because remember when the movie first starts, outside the Muffy thing with Muffy having the flashback, the first scene on the dock is introducing Nan. I thought Nan, one thing the movie did a good job of too was basically not really revealing who the main character was.
I'm sorry, you
Kinda
can't
like
say that for one reason. I
outside of
called
Muffy.
I called it as Amy Steele the minute I saw her. The minute her and Rob started talking, I was like, Amy Steele is our main character.
I still think if the movie was a typical slasher, I would have not known the order of how they're gonna die in. And
Order
usually,
no.
no, but usually you can actually tell in a slasher just by the screen time and the focus on the characters. You can actually tell normally, like, okay, you can guess the order of who's gonna die in what order a lot of times. This would have been like, okay, they're almost all given equal weight. So it's like I thought Nan might have been at first the main character, but then she disappears because she falls in the well or something. So maybe not, but
She's
uh
thrown in the well.
more slashers than do that though. More slashers than do something where they basically introduce all the characters and give them equal weight. Then you don't know, you can't guess the order of how they're gonna die. You don't know this main character has plot armor. We shouldn't know who the main character is. They gotta give it equal weight, and it makes the movie way more unpredictable.
Tommy Jarvis Award.
The Tommy Jarvis Award, for folks who don't know, this is the award where we grant somebody who was responsible for the events, who did the Tommy Jarvis digging up Jason from Jason Lives,
Do
who
we
is
really need
accountable.
to go over this one?
Oh, well. Her
There's
name
only
rhymes.
one correct answer.
Her name rhymes with Buffy and
Duffy.
Lucky.
It's
this one,
Muffy.
This one's not even worth talking about because it's kind of like, yeah. There's a clear
That's the
culprit here.
twist.
All right.
Needed more focus.
What acting class did Buffy take? This drawl.
It was a college drama class.
I swear, it was like I was watching one of those ghosts from Pulse.
She probably watched like 5 horror movies where there's a psychotic woman in the movie, and she took that inspiration and put into her performance.
No, because usually if a woman is our serial killer, she usually has a lot more energy and a lot more emotion to her because most women are emotional creatures.
Yeah, but that's if they're really a psycho. If it's somebody acting as a psycho, it's not going to be as good as the real thing, buddy. You're acting like, okay, like she'd have that expectation of like winning an Oscar for playing a psycho. She's a college age girl trying to convince her friend she's psychotic, and she did just enough because Rob and Ginny were convinced, and that's what matters.
You want to know how someone would actually be able to tell if you're psychotic? Are you ready for this? Start acting like Pamela Voorhees.
I know. You ask them, do you have your wings breaded or naked? If they say breaded, psycho.
There you go.
Boneless or bone in? Boneless,
psycho.
There
you go.
Boneless.
Unless you're like a kid and still can't really get the concept of eating around bone, but that's besides the point.
I mean, look, flavored chicken nuggets are good, especially if they're from Nilbach.
Apparently, Wendy's has started doing saucy nuggets.
Like barbecue saucy nuggets?
Apparently, there's some barbecue. I think there was like a honey lemon or something like that. Of course, buffalo. I need to double check because I only saw an ad for it. I haven't actually went on their website and looked.
That probably is good, honestly, because I
like
their nuggets. Their nuggets are solid. Yeah.
What would you recommend?
This is gonna be a hard one for me. Again,
let's reveal something to the audience though. Okay.
I watched this thinking it was a slasher and not a mystery.
Not even that. I've warned Nick about this before though. So, obviously we take turns picking movies. If I pick a movie I haven't seen, I'm going to find a way online to find a way to watch it. Nick Hare just blindly buys the Blu-ray, which, hey, listen, Blu-rays can range from $5 to $10 to $20. Now,
that's how much this was.
This is payback because I spent $20 on Labyrinth.
I didn't tell you. Hey, I told you to fucking download it.
Do you have Labyrinth?
Yes.
You bought the Blu-ray?
Yes. Bought the Blu-ray like 10 years ago.
Okay, I was going to trade you. I was going to give you Labyrinth for that. But okay, if you already have it. But Nick has bought the Blu-ray for The Burning.
Yes.
And April Fool's Day and The Prowler.
Yes.
And I think we should all just comment below, Nick, stop buying these movies until you've seen them. They may not be your cup of tea.
The prop.
Or if you're going to buy it, $5, $10, maybe even $15, $20. Good Lord.
Hey, to be fair, The Prowler was only $15.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
The Burning was $10.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, I gotcha. I can see that.
April Fool's Day, because apparently I bought the collector's edition. I'm going to say allegedly because it doesn't say it on the damn Blu-ray box. $20.
I'll gladly take it off your hands if you don't want it, only because I actually am curious to see what special features are on there because, yeah, unfortunately, that deleted ending, my understanding is it's not on the Blu-ray. They tried to get it, but it wasn't on there, but that would have been fun to watch that.
Well, it's yours.
But I just want to frame for the audience that Nick spent money on the Blu-ray, and then also he went in with the initial thoughts that he was watching a slasher movie.
Yeah, so going off as if you just read Reddit for a slasher, slam something.
My phone fell over. The screen's already cracked. It's even more cracked now. So I'll have to buy a new phone eventually. So
it just sounded like the minute I mentioned Reddit, you slammed something.
Hey, if there's a Tommy Jarvis award for picking this movie, it's Reddit. It's the whole Reddit. They led me this way. So
yeah, but if you go on Reddit and type in slasher and you see someone say April Fool's Day,
Just
tell
reply.
them,
Say nope.
yeah, exactly. Tell them, no, it is not no damn slasher. So, as a slasher, because that's how I went into this with, no, I don't recommend it because you don't get anything that you want from a slasher. You don't get gore, unless you count that opening scene, but you find out it's a prosthetic that, I'm sorry, last time I checked, prosthetics like that, at least back in those days, you can't just rip them off, otherwise it would actually take the skin with it. You needed to like pour hot water on the area.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
but that I just didn't feel like bringing that up because whatever, the rest of the movie didn't feel too real to me either. Anyway, but as a mystery, I can say as a mystery, I see the appeal. I'm just not a fan of there didn't seem to be any repercussions of somebody playing with another person's life.
Hmm.
So overall, I'm giving it a soft recommend for people who like mystery thrillers because it is definitely a good movie to watch if you're not a horror fanatic or you don't like horror, but you still like that kind of mystery aspect of what a horror movie can give. So I'm giving it a soft recommend.
I would say the repercussions are, but you got to add things in your mind. Basically, this woman is gonna try this business, go
And it's
out of
going to
business,
fail.
lose her house, probably get a lawsuit from somebody getting hurt. I don't think her future is bright unless she dramatically irons out the details of how this is going to work, because that worked with your friends, but I don't know how that setup's going to work with like complete strangers coming there every week.
Well-
So anyways, repercussions aside, I had watched the first half an hour with that prism, the perspective of this is a slasher, but then I went back and started from the beginning, fresh mind, just looking at it as a mystery. And yeah, man, by the end, I felt like even though you do have a little bit of a letdown, it's anticlimactic for it to all be a joke. I was like, well, I still enjoyed the journey. Maybe the end point wasn't exactly where I wanted to get to, but I still enjoyed the ride. I still got sucked into where I wanted to know what happened at the end. And because there's a twist there, I'll say one thing. The movie does have a little bit of rewatchability because you can watch it a second time with the idea that this is all a joke. Now you can really pay attention to everything Muffy does. I read on IMDb in the trivia, there's one scene where there's there's like the window in the attic, and she's like playing with the window because she's setting it up for them to later on be able
Basement.
to go through it. So stuff like that. The thing about her being in the drama class, there are clues throughout that. So I could watch the second time and just focus on how Muffy's reacting to everything, because I'm like, oh, she's watching everything to make sure her plan's going according to plan. So it does have some fun rewatchability because you can watch from a different perspective the second time. So yeah, I recommend it. Also, same thing, a light recommend. There's definitely better mysteries for sure. So, but if you enjoyed Cry Wolf, this is kind of in that mold. So if you like the movie Cry Wolf, if you like the game with Michael Douglas, this is kind of that category movie. So if you get a kick out of that thing, I'm guessing those Knives Out movies. I haven't seen them, but the Knives Out movies are probably something like this too. If you like that kind of thing, then you'll get a kick out of this. But do not go in expecting cheesy 80s slasher. Do not go in expecting gore, kills, a madman serial killer. This is not the movie for you. This is not that kind of movie.
And I'm going to mention something because you just brought the movie up. I do like Cry Wolf.
I want to add three things. You bought the Blu-ray, you watched it with the idea that you were seeing a slasher, and you had already seen the remake. Those three things were gonna like put you in a bad frame of mind, because because Nick's texting while he's watching movies like, man, I remember one time I saw a movie called April Fool's Day, and you gave the ending away, but at that time I had no idea that it was even a remake. So I was like, oh, he just watched some other movie called April Fool's Day. Now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, he watched a remake. Yeah, they probably had the same ending. So
Well, what's bad is because I remember telling you, it's like, man, because I remember telling you, it's going to be stupid if they have that same ending. Because again, I'm not even putting together, oh, I'm watching the original of the remake. And that's probably why the ending did not get me as much as it would have gotten me if I just only watched this one without realizing it.
that's I didn't see the remake, so for me it all felt fresh. But for you, you're like again, but then you're like, oh, again, because I literally watched the remake. Like, and also like this, there's that that idea that they filmed kind of that sort of ending, I think you'd probably more expect more the, oh, I know something's actually going to happen. They filmed that, but they decided against it. And I feel they made, I would like to have that as a deleted scene. So you can like add that ending if you want, but I like it without that. So, well, anyways, let's see, folks, next few weeks, we'll see what Blu-rays Nick decides to buy next and what movies he decides to keep buying blindly and kind of go from there, I guess. So,
Well, I already got one. Oh wait, it's upside down. There we go.
next week, one more blind spot for Vik and Nick, The Prowler. I promise you, we've seen every other slasher movie in history. Just these last couple movies are blind spots.
You're lucky I don't remember the other the list I found of 80 slashers. Otherwise, I would say another name.
Look, most of them I've seen, all right? Not just the Friday 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Halloweens. That's probably
Well,
no.
What was that other Cropsy movie that they changed the name to? What was it? Madman? Have you seen that?
No, I do feel like we should watch that just because it is Cropsy. So
We'll figure it out.
one day.
As always, you don't have to go home, but you do got to go to Wendy's and try their new saucy chicken nuggets. Let me know how it is.
I might do that myself now, thinking about it.
Let me know how it is, because Wendy's nuggets, they're good. But yeah, just let me know what's what.
And listen, when that bowl of pasta shows up when you're expecting pizza, don't throw away the pasta. Just throw some Chick-fil-A sauce on it, get a fork, some oregano, salt and pepper, and make the best of that pasta. You can always get pizza next week. So,
and if you have any movies that you want to hear us review, email Vic.
Just leave a comment.
Email him.